Mars is your desire for experience. And Pluto's saying, that's dangerous, you can't do that, or that's forever. You're going to disturb that, or it's going to disturb that. How could you do that? So it's either your force is either controlled by others or it's controlled by you in spite of others. So mine's in Scorpio. I have a super competitive nature, but I have a low tolerance to being told what to do also. So I've worked for myself my whole life. Every job I had, once I had a 2-month-long job to pay off a debt, but usually it was to the first paycheck. Several times, someone said the wrong thing to me in the first week, and I just walked and I left. I'm not taking that. But I grew up with bullies and gangs in high school. I grew up with people trying to cut my hair off with razor blades. They were with not razor blades, with a switchblade. They were tough things, but I wasn't afraid of those as I was my father knocking me around. I grew up at the end of the war, so I have the Pluto, I have aspects from that time period. So you can see the time period you're on, how Pluto has a certain effect for a whole generation. Then it dumps itself onto each of the planets in your chart. It's there touching everybody's planets and every planet in everybody's chart. It's there anyways. It's only more dramatically so when there's the conjunction, square, or opposition. If you went further, you take the semi-squares or the 135-degree aspects, but we'll deal with that later. Not at this stage for natal chart, you don't need it. You need to see the major ones and have them stand out. But Pluto makes it forceful, harsh, where you're being confronted or you're confronting other people. So as a kid, I'd always be doing things that would challenge my parents. But then at the same time, my parents were always saying, you can't do anything. So I'd go do it before I was told I couldn't. Don't go down to the river. Of course, I'm down by the river all the time. So there's a power struggle in what you're doing in your muscles and your physicality, but the strength in it. When I was in grade 1, I was on the grade 11 gym team. I wasn't afraid of anything. They could throw me around and they had me holding up these big kids. I had a great Russian gym teacher and he knew how to use my strength and my lack of fear. But really the lack of fear in social situations was balanced by having had the fear at home and I dealt with it. So I always had to go out and play on my own. I mean, I lived on a riverfront. They built the seaway. And for a couple of years, they were building this big dike to take over the river to build the seaway. And they were dynamiting it. So they put the wires of dynamite and they blow it up. And I used to, after they blew it up, I used to go around and collect this dynamite wire. And sometimes it'd be live caps, things that could explode. I just collected these things. Deadly. Nobody knew. I was left alone. Go out and play. Don't come in. I don't want to see your face for 2 or 3 hours. So the Pluto around doing things, can be a fear of doing things, fear of bullies, fear of gangs. I learned very young. I was a very small teenager. And I wasn't big enough to fight the other kids. I could run. I could be alert to things, but I wasn't physically as strong. But these things turned as I got older because they turned into learning meditation, learning martial art, into getting experiences of my own in my own extreme way. But I'm always driving to do something. It's in fixed science. But Pluto hitting the Mars, you're going to do something, there's going to be a block. You try to do something good, somebody's going to take offense by it. You try to do something bad, do something bad, a cop car will drive by right away. There's harshnesses. So the challenge is someone with a physical problem, with a muscle problem could have a Mars Pluto. But most people have a strength or power struggle. And that's what you see in a lot of salespeople might have. Sports people, athletes, competitive situations would require that. Athletes, strong athletes, pushing the limit. That's Pluto Mars. That's where it's useful to. But if you're pushing the limit, it's not necessarily so good for marriages, for relationships, because you're pushing your Mars too strongly. So you have a tendency to try and control the other person. But so there'll be battles, there'll be injustice in battles. I remember being afraid with gangs and bullies and having to get by them and around them. And I was glad to get to move out of the left home, and there was no loss because I was getting away from the gangs and bullies. There was a loss in that I left university before I finished it. But there's all these layers going on. Pluto's how you do it. Whenever I do something, it's always, I never do it lightly. I always expect, if I'm going to do this, where's the adversity? Where's the confrontation? How do I get around this? So it's not that I don't run around. I've run into many difficult battles. Even, it's funny, when I was a little kid, my mom and dad were fighting. They wouldn't say it. We didn't see it that much, but they were struggling. And every time I went to drink out of a glass of water from the age of 2 or 3 till I was about 7, my jaw would break through. I would break the glass in my mouth. Just that was the intensity of the environment I grew up in. I didn't know it then. They didn't know it. They just got me plastic glasses or metal glasses, which I hated. But at the same time, I was breaking the glass in my mouth. So pushing things to a limit, fighting up against battles, harshness. These battles can be sexual. They can be around work or career. They can be around just with physical strength, muscle tone strength. But Mars, as you're putting your energy out, of course, it's tied up to your health, your security, your intelligence, your values, your self-worth, and your confidence, how much you actually use force. But how gracefully can you use it? Well, when I try to remember things, I always remember the bad things are the battles overcome, and facing the fears and getting away with things, or getting away from bad people. But I'm eclipsing a bit. Anyone has this, there's going to be a harshness added to the Mars. And as soon as Mars gets angry, it's going to get extremely angry. I, for a long time, know my strength is my willpower and strength is far greater than my backbone. So my muscles are stronger than my bones. But if you get me mad, I'll push to drive this. Just try to take examples. And these are just mine. They'd be totally different perspectives on it. Like, this Pluto's so impersonal, yet it's personal. Like, remember once when I was a kid, walking along, I was going to play. So we played, there was that empty lot next door with a foundation of an old house that had been torn down. I used to play in that all the time by myself. Well, one day I step on an ankle's right through my foot. So I come home, I gotta get the tetanus shot and everything else. And it's in pain, and I'm limp, I can hardly walk. And my bedroom was up on the top floor, and we lived in this old house. Well, that night, there was a threat of a fire. Someone was said, "Oh, there's a fire! We got to get everyone out." And I just got up out of bed and ran right down the stairs, right outside the door. I got out before I even realized my foot was in pain, and then I passed out. But I had the willpower to just do it anyways, out of necessity, in that intensity of the moment. So depending how your Mars is, Pluto's going to add this harsh side to it. It can add over control. It can be there in abusive situations. Certainly had my share of abuse, but it can be there. Something's severe, finding the job, doing it and do something. Nothing's easy. You have to fight for it. You have to survive. Challenge of Pluto to Mars. Now, if I try and imagine it in a growth chart, I'm trying to do things. You can't do this. You have to do this. You have to do that. And the same abuses can come around trying to do things. Someone can be strong and no one's letting them be strong, or someone can be strong and everyone's alienating them because of it, or fighting them because of it, or even between. Strength is not male or female. Right? Desire for experience is not male or female. It's individual. It's an individual nerve. So there can be blocks about doing things that can lock into a position for a number of years. And then they can be having to face it. They can be powered, go do things nobody else would do, or have to face things. Sometimes you can be that strong, but you're afraid of being that strong. So you might put it down so no one will love me if I'm that strong. So you put down your energy, just back other people until finally some crisis happens, and then you take control and everyone's shocked. But Pluto loses innocence on the desire for experience. It puts blocks, it puts difficult situations, bad people, difficult things you have to face. What happens when you get a teacher that hates you? You can tell your parents, mostly they're going to say, we have to learn how to deal with it because you're going to have to deal with it in life anyways. Okay, then what do? Well, some people can, if someone has an anger, Pluto can make this anger really extreme. Controlled, but extreme. So a lot of times people with Pluto Mars, Pluto Venus, I get people singing or doing, like, trying to do some art therapy of some sort, anything emotional. But singing in choir, it doesn't have to be just something. It could be, if they won't sing, then some music, but usually singing does it the best because that's where the fear is. But with Pluto to Mars, I will suggest people take a martial art, something where you're having to control your forces and can be peaceful within it. So when you challenge this for yourself, it's a great strength. When you run into other people, it's a battle. But, okay. But there's a harshness there. You see it when you just, you won't think somebody's doing it. You just notice, oh, they have that abrasiveness, that harshness, that fear, that loss of innocence around that. So they're not likely to be so spontaneously doing anything. If Pluto's there, they're going to be guarded and under defense. They'll be controlling things rather than letting things go out of control. Or they'll be out of control, waiting for a moment to try and get control. When we, I mean, it's interesting. And we're looking at one point in a chart and has this much information about fear, about Neptune, about visions and dreams and sorrows and guilts and dependencies, about shocks and insecurity and letdowns. But a person may have it, and it's generally there, but they're just them. They've been that person all their life. But it may come out at certain times. It may affect their decisions in certain ways. It's a factor that's there that someone else doesn't have, and it will start to show usually as one gets older and has to exteriorize, interact with others. As you react with others, these things stand out a little bit more.